Good morning, my dear participants. Good morning, resource persons. To all of us, good morning. So today is a beautiful day. Let's declare that today is a wonderful day. So yesterday, we're very grateful to our very amazing school principal, Sir Michael Harmatuelos, for extending to us his brilliant ideas on improving psycho-emotional and spiritual well-being. Tungod ato, we're very much inspired to keep on learning new things. Sag unsa man ang mahitabo, let's keep fighting. So anyway, last sessions we talked about the learning interventions and we also had the learning assessment in the new normal. Since we're done with the assessment, how are we going to communicate the learning outcomes? And with that, our session 5 is titled Communicating the Learning Outcomes in the New Normal. Let's welcome our resource persons, Ma'am Ana Maria A. Inting, Ma'am Vina Riza R. Gallo, Ma'am Amelda Mira G. Buntilaw, and Ma'am Sarah G. Saison.
Good morning, dear teachers. Welcome to Day 5 of our in-service training for this school year 2020-2021. Together with our team, we are pleased to discuss to you the Session 5 of our in-service training entitled Communicating Learners' Outcomes in the New Normal. Are you ready? To begin with, let me state now the objectives. By the end of this topic, we will be able to, first, identify and discuss the modes of communication and available communication options to feedback learners in the new normal. Second, apply the modes of communication that are efficient, effective, and practical to both teachers, learners, parents, and other stakeholders. Third, create a positive attitude among teachers, learners, parents, and other stakeholders in communicating learning outcomes in the new normal. And the last one we have, foster a strong relationship between parents and teachers and other stakeholders to provide better academic services to the learners.
Before I will discuss the topic proper, I will show to you a short video clip. After watching the video, you will be able to answer the guide questions that I will read to you after the video.
Nagproblema man siya kung ayo aning Pedra wa ilhi uy. Nakasubmit man sa iyahang answer sheet sa weeks 1 to 4 o ngano nga ang weeks 5 to 8, wa na may nabalik gikan niya. Unsaon man ako ni siya pagrado? Nga wa ra ba tay face to face rong panahon na. Ay Ma'am Sar. Imuha man di ay ning advisory si Pedra wa ilhi ma'am no.
Oo ma'am, ako yung advisor. Sige ma'am, ako lang siyang textan or tawagan ma'am, ano nga ni siya ni Pasa. Sao na may Pedra, oy nga. Text ka, di mo reply. Tawagan, di ko gihapon makontak. Kusang isra pod lagi makasabot ata signal. Sa GC pod, wa po'y paramdam, di ko mo reply. Ay, gataan. ako na kaning suwatan no na ang ipamalihog sa mga barangay officials kay gusto ko kayo din nato ni ma-follow up una unsa ning bata unsa nga hitabuan ni. Hala oy, tulo na nga gaadlaw nila bay wa man gyapon response sa akong ipada nga suwat. Medyo pilay na ning mahimo mo visit na dito ani. Ang maistorya po na ang ginikanan og naunsa gini si Pedra.
You will be given 10 minutes to answer the guide question. Guide questions. First, what are the modes of communications that are efficient, effective, and practical in the new normal? Second, why is it important to apply or learn those modes of communications in the new normal? And third, how would you feel if you were able to adopt those mode of communications in the new normal? Before I will discuss to you the various type of communications, let us define the key terms for this session for deeper understanding of the topic. First, key term is communication. Basic communication, this refers to the various modes either directly or indirectly for transferring relevant information about learners' needs, progress, and achievement to the stakeholders. When you say directly, so we directly communicate the informations to the stakeholders. For example, so yung nakadikso na blah 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 to the parents or the guardians. When you say indirectly, we need channels. For example, the community officials or the barangay officials na maninghan ng taog tabang sa barangay officials. Okay, next key term is the learning outcome. When I say learning outcome, these are statements that describe essential or significant and essential learning that learners have achieved and can reliably demonstrate at the end of the course or program. When I say learning outcomes, it comprises to three related topics or three related words, which is the learner needs, progress, and achievement. When you say learner's needs, this refers to the observable behavior or attitude a learner that a teacher must address immediately. When you say learning progress, this refers to the trail of stages of learners' academic status. When you say learner achievements, this pertains to the remarkable curricular or co-curricular performance of a learner recognized by the school. For example, for the first quarter, so ang bata is na-honor or part of the top 10. So, kinahanglan po na nato i-communicate. So, dili lang ang nato i-communicate limited only to the learner's problems, but also the progress and the achievement of the learners. In this session, we will also learn to improve our practices in communicating this learner needs, progress, and achievement of to the stakeholders, specifically to the parents or the guardians. We will also explore how we can utilize these modes of communications, when to communicate learners' information through these modes, and how we can enrich these modes through devising or using documenting tools that will allow us to have accessible reference about learners' school and academic status. So these are the modes of communication. First, the personal dialogue. Second, the group consultation. Third is home visitation. Fourth is texting and calling. Fifth is social media. Sixth is letter writing. Seven, coordinating with the barangay officials. And lastly, community learning centers. Okay, first mode of communication is personal dialogue. with the parent. When you say dialogue, it is a conversation between two or more persons, particularly a formal conversation. Intended, or a discussion is intended to produce an agreement. So, di ba, ano makig-dialogue man ta sa parent? So, we have a purpose. And part of that purpose is also an agreement. Kung unsang possible intervention atong himuon if there is a problem with the learners. In conducting the personal dialogue, the probable stakeholders may include the parents, the guardians, the teachers, administrators, partners, and learners. What we are going to communicate to the stakeholders or to the parents. So, the learners' concerns includes learners' output, academic coaching or counseling, learners' personal concerns, or matters. When to communicate these learning outcomes or the timeline. So, it's either quarterly or end of every quarter. How to do it? So, how to do a dialogue? So, these are the do's and don'ts of personal dialogue. The do's first is keep information secured and intact, yet accessible. So, kinahanglan, ang information is secured. So, dili pwede nimo ipagawas or kung dili person concerned. Next is devise a communication plan in meeting the stakeholder. So, before doing a personal dialogue to the parents, so kinahanglan is mahimo jud kag plano. Next is always do quarterly track assessment of needs. Focus on the positive lead for needs. So, dapat buhaton na siya quarterly. Next is always be cautious in facilitating personal dialogue. So, dapat nag-courtesy when doing these personal dialogues. The don'ts. So, these are the don'ts. First is don't overstate the information, especially learners' personal matters. So, imbis na ang imong i-communicate to the stakeholders is the learner's concern or needs, so dili nimo kinahanglan i-overstate or kinahanglan dili nimo dapat punan og lain na istorya. Next, show special treatment to any stakeholders. So, walay special treatment. Bisan pag pinaka-low or low status or dili ta magtan-aw kung unsa ang stakeholders, kung pobre or dato or ila or dili inila. So, dapat fair ang atong pag-treat nila. Next is take for granted a learner's concern, even the tiniest detail of an event. And lastly, do not underestimate reaction of the stakeholders. Second modes of communication is the group consultation. When you say group consultation, it is a one-to-one appointment within a group setting, either virtually or face-to-face. So, when you say group consultation, as what you have seen in the video earlier, diba, subject teacher is iyang ni-consulta siya sa problem sa kabata or learners to the advisor. So, muna siya example of group consultation. So, the probable or the possible type of stakeholders are the teachers, administrators, parents or guardians, personnel or staff, industry partners, and community. The learner's concern, say, what are going to communicate. So, the grade deliberation, learners' curricular and or co-curricular participations, and the learner's subject progress status. Okay, as what you have seen in the video, na ang subject teacher is na problema kay ang bata, ang sa learner is nakahatag siya sa first and fourth week, but for the fifth and the 8th weeks is wala na siya ni-pass. So muna dapat na to i-communicate sa ilahang guardians or the parents. And when to do it? So, it's quarterly or end of every quarter. How to do it? So, how to do a group consultation? These are the do's and don'ts. So, we say do's, always be honest, rational, and systematic in disclosing information. Next, maintain transparency between and among stakeholders. Third, provide relevant and sufficient data of the learner's needs, progress, and achievement. Next, take note of the available feedback from the stakeholder. So, dapat open jud ka kung unsa ang feedback or unsa pod ang maistorya sa stakeholders. Don'ts. So, do not overlook information presented during the consultation. So, kung unsa na ito'y problems, so mao na ito'y dapat i-sulti or i-communicate sa parents or other stakeholders. Do not misinterpret opinions of the group in place of the factual information. Next, confuse a learner's concern as problem when interpreted as problem by the group. For example, instead of gamay lang ni siyang concern but nahimo na og usa ka problema sa grupo. So dili na to i-confuse ang learner's concern to a problem. And the last don'ts is make your responsibility the sole responsibility of the group. So during group consultation, the teacher's keen attention to performance of the learner helps them to immediately see progress and achievement of the learners. So, kung buhaton ni nato siya, learners will be inspired to persevere more and trust their own abilities. Kaya ato man silang gi-call up. So, baliwaon na nato. So, knowing that their teachers trust them and care about the things they do. Next mode of communication is home visitation. Home visitation is a service that is provided within the home of families with learners to provide support for parents to better understand their child's development skills. During home visitation, the usual or the possible stakeholders are the parents or guardians and together with the learners. So, the learner's concern, the learner's failure in claiming and submitting last and answer sheet, and learner's personal concern and matters. Okay, next is the learner personal concern and matter. So, we're not only limiting to the failure of submitting the answer sheet of the learners, but also kung nasiyag mga problema o personal concern or matters. For example, ihang family or siya mismo or members of the family is exposed or COVID positive. So, kinahanglan nato sila ipangutanon kung okay ra ba sila. So, when to do it? So, it's either monthly or quarterly. Okay, in facilitating the home visitation, these are the do's and don'ts. So, first, the do's. focus on informing the parents regarding the learner's concern. So, dapat ang atong i-communicate ang academic concern of the learners. Dili kay lain or unsay chismis at storya sa stakeholders. Determine which stakeholders' feedback is relevant and which is not essential. So, unsa ra gyud toy importante ang atong i-feedback. Then, communicate the most important concern of the learner. And lastly, make the conversation as comfortable and friendly as possible. The don'ts. So, first is, do not discuss information which is not validated or confirmed. So, dito sura ka o conversate na wala or wala pa na-confirm kung nakapass or wala kapass. Next, underestimate or do not underestimate the information or opinions given by the stakeholders. Next, do not exaggerate the extent of the learner's concern. And lastly, do not reveal details of locations, address, and other similar information of the stakeholder. So, dili ka mapatakataka og hatag og personal information or location or address sa stakeholders. What if diay ko ang stakeholders na to is kwartaan siya, post ka dito, kuan kag picture dito, uy mo ni iyahang kuan. So what if kung nay mga nay mo kusunada og kawat or moadto silang balay or mangawat inana. So do not disclose personal details or informations of the stakeholders. Okay, next is texting and calling. So texting, so the possible type of stakeholders are the parents, guardians, and learners. So, what are the concerns that we need to communicate? So, first is the learner's failure in claiming and submitting the learner activity sheets, and learner's personal concerns and matters. So, when to do texting? So, when irregularities are observed. So, kung ditahay first o second week, nakapasya. Pag third week, wala nakapaso, pwede na ito textan. Gawin nga na wala makakapas. Yan ni. So, bang tawagan. Kung na siya cellphone pod, or wala siya cellphone, iyahang parents ato i-text or i-communicate. Okay. For the next modes of communications, this will discussed by Mrs. Gallo or Ma'am Biona Gallo.
Thank you, Ma'am Amel, for discussing the other modes of communication. Today, I am going to discuss the remaining modes of communication. We go to number 5. We have social media. What is social media? Social media are websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. This mode of communication is only applicable for students who live in mainland, but for those students who live in the island, I believe this is not really applicable because of the absence of internet connection. Make it sure that our students have their Facebook account so that we can easily communicate with our students, so with their messenger, group chat, email, and etc. We have here the mode of communication, social media, possible type of stakeholders. We have parents, guardians, learners. For learners' concerns, we have learners' failure in claiming and submitting last and answer sheets, learners' personal concerns and matters. And for the timeline, when irregularities are observed. We go to number 6. We have letter writing. Letter writing is the exchange of written or printed messages. This is really the old way of communicating with our students by the time problem arises. Before, we never have cell phone, we never have social media, we never have any access from the internet. So if there is a problem arises with our students, we immediately send a letter to their parents or guardians. For letter writing, we have here the mode of communication. Possible type of stakeholders, parents, guardians, and learners. Learners' concerns. Learners' failure in claiming and submitting last and answer sheets. And then learners' personal concerns and matters. Then our timeline, when irregularities are observed. We go to number 7, coordinating with barangay officials. For coordinating with barangay officials, we have here the mode of communication. As you can see in our screen, coordinating with barangay officials. The possible type of stakeholders, we have parents, guardians, and learners. Learners' concerns, learners' failure in claiming and submitting last and answer sheets, learners' personal concerns and matters. And then our timeline again, when irregularities are observed. So in coordinating with barangay officials also, we have to observe proper or correct health protocol since we are in the new normal. Now we go to number 8. We have community learning centers. For community learning centers, we should observe proper and health protocol also. 1 meter away from the student or 1 way away from that particular person with the maximum of 10. But this is the last recourse for us to do. If we cannot do it for texting, calling, letter writing, sending messages to Facebook, email, and etc. TLC is a school that serves as a community hub, utilizing school space during extended hours, on weekends, and through the summer to provide additional academic support, health resources, social services, arts programming, and civic and cultural opportunities to students, their families, and the community. Mode of communication, community learning centers. Possible type of stakeholders, we have parents, guardians, learners, community. And for learners' concerns, we have learners' subject progress status, learners' personal concerns and matters. And for the timeline, it should be quarterly, not weekly. The do's and don'ts of the community learning centers. Always be honest, rational and systematic in disclosing information. Whatever information that we have gathered, we keep it for ourselves. And then maintain transparency among stakeholders and provide relevant and sufficient data of learners' needs, progress, and achievement. Take note of the valuable feedback from the stakeholders. So whatever positive and negative feedback, we are going to accept that one wholeheartedly. The don'ts we have here: do not overlook information presented during consultation. Do not misinterpret opinions of the group in place of the factual information. Do not confuse a learner's concern as a problem when interpreted as problem by the group. Do not make your responsibility the sole responsibility of the group. We go to the last one. We have here documentation and communication tools. For documentation and communication tools, we have here the sample. As you can see in our screen, we have here the learner's needs, progress, and achievement cardex. As you can see, for the template number 1, you are going to fill up the name of our student, and then grade and section, address, contact number, email, and some important information. And we have here the date reported. This is just a sample. And then report intended for. What is the report intended for? So you have to check need, and then details of concern. Teachers have observed that John has been less active in participating in class in the last 2 weeks compared to his performance in the first quarter. So this is in the old setting that we have, wherein there is face-to-face. But this is not really for the new normal, because we don't really have the class discussion. In fact, we're using the learning activity sheets or the modules. And then we have here actions to be taken. We have dialogue and consultation. You check dialogue and you check the consultation. And remarks of action taken, it's ongoing activity. It's an ongoing consultation. And for August 25, 2017, anyway, this is just a sample. From August 9, 2017, you have checked already for progress for August 25. And John became less active in participating in class because of cell phone bullying. We have addressed this and we are monitoring students periodically. And then you have to check consultation. And again, for taken, action, remarks of action taken, accomplished. So we go now to the next one. We have here the parents, guardian, or guardians communication cardex. So aside from the learner's progress, we also have here the parents, guardians, and communication cardex. So the name of the parent, the name of the mother or father, you are going to write it in the parents, guardians, communication cardex. Then date reported, August 25, 2017, and then the type of encounter that you have, it's in a dialogue way of encounter. And then details of concern. Regarding Mr. De La Cruz, observable inactiveness in class due to cell phone bullying, as reported by teachers based on counseling session, notification of involved students. Then we have here agreed resolution. It has been agreed upon that the student will still be academically assisted by teachers. Amicable agreement has been delivered among the parents involved. Then at the end part, you let the parent sign their signature together also with the signature of the teacher. Next, we have here the locator slip. Before you go for a home visitation, you have to fill up the locator slip signed by our school principal and the class advisor or the subject teacher. So we have here the home visitation form, the very common one, and we are using the home visitation form. Before we let our students sign the home visitation form, make it sure that the school principal is able to sign his signature together with the signature of the guidance counselor.
Okay, let's continue to application. So in this activity, you are tasked to make a learning outcome communication plan by applying the various modes of communication discussed which you think are effective, efficient, and practical in the new normal. Your output should be written in your study notebook. And please note, we don't have a standard template or format for your communication plan. You only have to consider or include the following: concern, intervention, timeline, and resource needed. Alright, let's continue to concluding activity. Just log into the link appeared on screen and answer the assessment questions. Okay, we have here a quote coming from our DepEd Secretary, Lenore Magtulis Briones. It says that education must continue even in times of crisis, whether it may be a calamity, disaster, emergency, quarantine, or even war. We must remember that our dreams must continue despite any challenges or circumstances. And the surest way to achieve it and have a better life is to continue educating ourselves. Thank you, and may God bless us all.